personal branding, if you're trying to like do it as a career in some way, shape or form, literally the art of it is supporting them to be themselves. The minute that you're not doing that is like, you're on a slow decline at that point. Personal branding 20 years ago is like companies would send people to speak at events or they try to get them into PR, and all these things are really gate kept. Whereas now you just like buy a phone, you create a social media account, you press record, you post. The barrier doesn't exist anymore apart from having a phone and an internet connection.
Basics of marketing. Know your audience and speak to them. If you're too broad, that is where you'll not hit your audience. That's where they'll get confused. Who am I speaking to? What AI tools are worth? What do you use and what you find invaluable?
I don't think that you should use AI tools for content creation.
Why is that? Why shouldn't you use it? Hi and welcome back to another episode of I Shouldn't Say This, but my name is Katie Leeson and we are here in the beautiful Molly's in Manchester. And I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors. We are the Allies. I'm joined today by Ash Jones. Now, Ash is one of the most profound thinkers when it comes to personal brand. He has been there since the start of personal branding. He was probably one of the first personal brand managers ever to be hired. And he's also set up the very first personal branding agency. So if we're going to have a talk about personal branding, not just for founders, but also for the importance that it has on your team, Ash is the person to speak to. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into exactly what's happening in the landscape now. We're going to talk about Ash and his journey. We're going to talk about where personal branding is moving to. And we're going to have the best discussion about AI, the pros, the cons, how you can make it work for you. And the thing that you're going to take out of it is the cream always rises to the top. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of I Shouldn't Say This, but Ash Jones, my Ash Jones, my ABJ. Thank you so much for coming and spending time with me and talking about personal branding and the world and the way things are moving. Can we start with you and your career journey, please?
Where do you want to start?
Well, let's go from the beginning. How did you get into it? I obviously know, but no one else will know.
So my second job was, if you go on my LinkedIn, it says telling the fascinating story of one of the UK's fastest growing agencies through the eyes of its CEO. My first job, I was a cleaner in a gym. And then I went to a music event. A friend introduced me to someone outside. The someone outside was a guy called Bartlett. This was 2012. I sent him a DM afterwards, being like, hey, get told that networking is really important. So this is me networking. And then we met up after that and just kind of like he was building stuff. And I just, worked with him.
Was it the War Park days?
Yeah, War Park 2012. And between 2012 and 2014, you kind of had like the characters of the founding team of Social Chain coming to the picture, with like Hannah Anderson, Dom, with Carol Berrigan, all kind of during that War Park era. And started working on bits in a very startup-y fashion. And then that kind of led into Social Chain. And then my role at first at Social Chain was just marketing for the agency, but that very quickly became obvious to us that Steve was the best way to market the agency. And so there then became a bit more of a focus on like, right, okay, what can you do in content and things like that? And then that kind of became my job in 2015, 16, as like personal brand manager, which I don't think there was one at the time.
I was going to say that I think you were
might
the
have been
first.
the first with that as an actual salaried.
You see, that's what you should have. The world's first personal brand manager.
And then, got on that train and started to learn more about like personal brand and how it operated. And we were just, as you do with like startups and building things, you just kind of learn as you go. The rail tracks down as you're kind of moving the train. And then
it was very much our culture that though as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like we went with it. We just went with it and we figured it out.
Move fast and break stuff. Wipes.
First fearless ever changing.
Yeah. And then for 3-4 years doing that, and then started one of maybe the first in the UK like personal brand agencies like the specialize in personal branding for founders and entrepreneurs. And yeah, that was great influence in 2018. And then went on that journey of like trying to build a business yourself for the first time, which was a vastly different journey from the one that I was on before. So yeah, done that for the past 8 years now, and then started a new one about 3-4 months ago called In Good Company, which is leaning more into helping brands activate their leadership teams on social media, which is like the same kind of world, but just a very different audience and market and outcomes and things like that. But it's taking all the same fundamentals of what I did at Great Influence and what I did with Steve, and yeah, expanding the universe that I've done it in.
Why is personal branding so important? The basics. Let's go back to basics.
Yeah, I think it's just like the first thing that pops into my head is like we were like Big Brother was like peak British TV, and it was completely like loose as a TV show. It's like just put a bunch of people in a house and see what happens.
Yeah.
And yet it was fascinating, and it was so popular for so long.
Yeah.
And the reason is because like people just love people watching, and like they're interested in people, and you get the characters that come out and the personalities that come out, and people would like pick the people they liked and all this kind of thing. And it was like you then had the reality TV boom after that with like the Kardashians and all this kind of stuff that happens in like the late 2010s, and even earlier than that, like the early 2000s with like Paris Hilton, and what was the one that she did with Nicole?
The Simple Life.
The Simple Life.
Of course I know that.
Yeah. So like it was the era of reality TV, and I think it was off the back of the era of
unscripted as well.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I bet it is kind of scripted, but not to the level it was.
And then like even before that, you had the 90s was like the explosion of celebrity. And in this country and the US with like Hollywood and things like that, and you had like Schwarzenegger and Brad Pitt and people like, and over here you had like Britpop explosion and all those kind of things, and it was all people led. It was like Liam Gallagher and like Damon Albarn, Blur, like that was the music scene. It was all whatever people were talking about. It was less about what they were doing and more about the people that were doing it, kind of thing. And I think we saw that in the 90s and the 2000s, and there's a reason for that. We're just like compelled by people and personalities. So like personal branding is not, it's no surprise like why it matters in business and things like that now, because it's just always been the case. Like even in business, it's always been the case, whether you try to engineer it and manufacture it and control it with something like a Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Or if you don't do anything with it. The reason why most people join a company is because they like the people that interviewed them and they think the job is a good job. Or you're being led by a CEO, and people like everything in the world of business is led by people. Every outcome that you're trying to achieve is like determined by people. So the whole personal branding thing is not really a surprise when you think of it like that. I think what's happened is that it's now controllable. Like people go, okay. It's almost like the term personal branding helped people turn the lights on to what already existed. And it's kind of like sales thinking. Like salespeople have been leveraging influence and reputation and all that kind of thing for as long as you can remember. And it's like everyone else just woke up to those like fundamentals of how things work, and then it had a term around it, personal branding, and now people can like, social media comes along and all of a sudden the barriers to doing it are completely broken down. So like personal branding 20 years ago is like companies would send people to speak at events, or they'd try to get them into PR, and all these things are really gate kept.
Yeah.
So the amount of people that could do it it's almost like a privilege to be able to do that. Whereas now you just like, you buy a phone, you create a social media account, you press record, you post. Like the barrier doesn't exist anymore apart from having a phone and an internet connection.
It doesn't, but that leads me on to something that's niggling at my brain at the moment, is the volume over quality. argument. So yeah, anyone can say
It's like Pop Idol in real life.
Yeah, anyone can say they've got a personal brand or want a personal brand.
Yeah.
But the actual value of what that content is, I think, isn't there as much, because there's not as much lived experience in the people that are creating personal brands.
It's kind of like it's a like gate kept thing again. If you think of like a lot of how I think about it is in like terms of like the music industry and how music works. Even then, I still like Pop Idol, and it's like there's 10,000 people that show up to X Factor, but there's only so many that make the finals. And we've kind of like that with personal branding. Like there's loads of people, but how many of them are actually interesting to listen to and good? And music was like, in the 90s, you get the Britpop explodes, and there's probably millions of bands, people picking up guitars for the first time, all that kind of thing, and making music, making bands, but only a small number of them make it onto the platforms because everything is gate kept. So you've got to get on the radio.
Yeah.
So there's 100 bands trying to get on the radio, but only 2 or 3 get on the radio. And then you're into the industry and the system and things like that. So we as the consumer, we only see the ones that make it, there's filters in the way. Whereas now there's no filters in the way, so we're just exposed to everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think like it won't be too dissimilar like to that kind of thing. The volume will be higher because the barrier again is a lot lower. You don't have to learn an instrument. You just have to press record or write something. But the difference is that beforehand, the volume of people trying to do something was gate kept, whereas now they're not, which is like, I don't know, I say the pro and con to it. I don't think there's no con to it unless you're the consumers. I don't think there's any con to it if you're the creator, because it's like...
I think there is. I think there's
Do you
like...
reckon?
Yeah, well, I just get frustrated because I like to learn stuff. And when my feed and my algorithm is then taken up by a load of people not really saying anything of value, I get frustrated as a consumer.
Yeah, so like the consumer pays the price of
Yeah.
more people
Yeah.
in a non-gate kept environment.
Yeah, and then as
Right.
someone trying to, or has been building a personal brand for 10 years, you're then also fighting against a volume of nothing noise.
Yeah.
That's quite frustrating as well.
But I always feel like the cream rises to the top. It's like now more people are making music more than ever. And there's more songs being published every single day because it's so easy to.
And random AI songs are just going like on TikTok and then getting picked up by DJs and then it's in the charts.
Yeah, but if somebody writes Bohemian Rhapsody tomorrow, it's still becoming one of the biggest songs in the world because it's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
So it's like the cream always rises to the top, I think. And the volume thing is a really interesting conversation because I think it maybe puts a lot of people off because there's so many people doing something. It's like you don't want to add to the noise or just be one of a part of a crowd. But I actually just think it makes it a lot easier to stand out, because if you've actually got a good song, there's a lot of people with not good songs out there. So you're like, exactly as you say there, the consumer is used to the average song that they listen to not being great, if we take that analogy. So if you actually turn up with a really good one, I think it's a bit easier if you're the creator.
And we're seeing that now. I talk a lot about Farron Clark, Jade Beeson. There's these influencers now that are taking over, these younger girls who are talking about marketing. Grace Andrews, another one. They're creating quite a nice life for themselves through being able to talk really coherently about marketing strategies, social media, how to grow. Like, it's quality content. It's stuff you can take real value from. And I like the fact that things are moving that way and they're growing, because I think I can learn stuff from what they're saying.
Yeah, it's just like over time, you can't, like, you're either good or you're not over time.
Yeah.
And I think like the personal brand space and people creating like the creator side of things that's really coming into the world of business, that's really started, like it's really happening in marketing with like people you reference there. And it's now like in other areas as well. And like everyone's now becoming a creator.
Yeah. Accountant. You see accountants, don't you?
yeah,
They're
yeah.
really good as well because they're useful, especially like we were saying before about tax bills.
Yeah. So I feel like time is the great filter. It's like if someone's genuinely good, because you can game so much of it now. and you can get away with it for so long.
Yeah.
Like you can build a really like massive audience without actually being that valuable. But over time, you can't really. At some point, you have to like return the value, especially now because people move on so quick.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of, I guess, the downside of like personal brand is like I would guess that people are less loyal to individuals.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more churny, which makes it very difficult to build a career. Like the level that you have to be at to have a sustained career now is probably a lot higher than maybe beforehand, where now you have to say something interesting a lot more often.
Yeah.
Whereas 15 years ago, you could put out a book.
Yes.
And that can carry you for a good 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Or a couple of posts, and they just keep like my one about over glamorizing overworking, just kept going around the world at times, and then trying to recreate that now is really hard.
Yeah, so I think the bar is it's a lot higher now.
It is a lot higher,
and you have to be a lot more frequent. It's the same with music, where it's like pop acts now, like they constantly have to be putting things out, and if they're not, they're at risk of becoming irrelevant because of the way that consumption works, regardless of industry.
So the best people you've worked with, what have they all kind of got in common when it comes to personal branding and brand strategy?
They see themselves as the CEO of their personal brand. Like they prioritize it and they invest. Most importantly, they invest their thoughts into caring about it. And they genuinely, in their downtime, will be like chewing things over that then lead to some kind of like, I'm thinking in the world of business, a lot of it is like the content they create is maybe a good chunk of it is like insight led or learnings, opinions, or this kind of thing. And they invest, yeah. They invest the thinking time to get to that point. Like we worked with, without doubt, one of the best, what do you call somebody who like articulates themselves, like person speaking, John Amici. And his process, he writes basically everything down.
Yeah.
So he's like constantly, his brain is also assessing things. And then he's taking that and kind of sitting on it, and then he's writing things down. So there's a whole process there that somebody goes through. And I think the best have a version of that, whatever it looks like. And they see the world through the lens of how can they draw something, all their experiences, the things that they encounter, and they'll connect dots and like think about things. And I think that, and then they also prioritize it in their lives, in their working lives specifically. They don't, and they understand that they can't, it's collaborative, not an outsourced effort. And the people that you would expect to have the least amount of time are the ones that put the most amount of time into it. And they reap the reward of doing
the output that we don't see. So you see all the output, but actually it's all the behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Heather Elkington earlier, and she in the podcast, and she said before she first went viral, she was posting for about 3 months, probably about 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what you don't see. What you do see is the success and the following and the growth. But it's the same as Steve when we were Social Chain. We both saw the behind the scenes of how much work went into getting him anywhere near where he is now.
Yeah. And probably also like 10 years later, that prioritizing it hasn't like dimmed.
No.
So I think that's the other thing. Now it's interesting that now you're getting to this point with like take LinkedIn as a platform where people that built a really big audience like 5-6 years ago, now they went on that journey, they've been doing it for 5-6 years, they're all kind of like not really, a lot of them are like not active as much anymore, kind of like falling off. It's very hard to sustain for like more than 5 years kind of thing. And again, the best people that I've seen have been doing it for 10 plus, and they're just as invested in it now. when all their life has got immensely busier in that 5-10 year period, they prioritize it just as much and invest in it just as much, both in how they act and what they do externally and also themselves.
Yeah. Well, 'cause that's interesting because I obviously grew mine at Social Chain, and then when I left Social Chain, I felt really tired by it. I think because I was working with you guys, wasn't I, for a point of it, but I think I pulled back quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because I just felt really tired from constantly showing up. And but in the back of my mind, I always had, I've got this audience that I can't like miss the opportunity with.
Yeah.
What tips? I mean, Gary Neville even said to me, I say Gary because it's like we're having a conversation about friends, but Gary even said to me, don't let that go, don't stop the podcast, don't. And I was like, I can't, I need a break, like I'm tired. I don't think if I kept the podcast going, I would have had the same energy for it or the level of joy from it. And I think the output would have suffered because of it. But do I think looking back, I probably missed an opportunity not growing it as I did? Yeah, probably. What tips would you give anyone who's feeling the drain?
Yeah, everything's a trade-off. I think he is like a great example of someone that like 10, 15, 20, I mean, his entire life is like commitments and his commitment to the commitments.
Yeah.
And I think to get to that level, you have to be the kind of person who just, you can do the commitments even 20, 30 years later. So yeah, I think everything's a trade-off and being okay with the trade-off. So like, for me, the most important thing with doing any of it, personal branding, but this just plays into anything in life really, doesn't it? Is like, you've got to want to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it, like I did a workshop the other week and they kept like people in the room would like ask some questions and do this. And always I came back to like, the first thing is like, you're comfortable with what you're doing and you want to do it. And then everything goes from there. So it's like, yeah, you've got to understand why you're doing it. Do you want to do it? What is like, what's realistic for you to do? Like, yeah, you've got to ask yourself like a really uncomfortable question and not like bullshit yourself.
Yeah.
Because we kid ourselves about what we actually want.
Yeah.
And I think you just got to get comfortable with whatever the answer to that is and know that, I think the problem is a lot of people get into it and it's a happy accident that they start growing an audience.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, I didn't expect this to happen. And then you've got to deal with the ramifications and consequences of that afterwards. And that's where it becomes really...
And the pressure to keep it.
Yeah, it becomes really difficult. Whereas like, again, I go back to music, it's like when you put a band together, you're trying to get a record deal and you want to play gigs, and so you know what's coming. Whereas I feel like a lot of people, when they film stuff and put it on the internet or make content, they're not really like, in their head it's not like a path.
There's no goal associated with
it. It's just like they're doing something that they've wanted to do and people have influenced them around them and they're just kind of giving stuff a go, and it feels very low stakes.
Yeah.
And then quite quickly it can become quite high stakes. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle. And yeah, it's just understanding that everything's a trade-off and trying not to kid yourself about what you want out of it, I think, because you have to be comfortable with what you're doing. And if you're not enjoying it, it's a death knell for personal branding, because the problem is you can't really, like, I've been running an agency that people can outsource the support of their personal brand to for like 8 years now, but you can't outsource it.
No, it's got to come from you.
Yeah. The minute that it stops coming from you and it starts coming from someone else's, it's like, yeah, you're on a slow decline at that point.
Yeah.
So
it's one of my biggest fears of working with an agency, and that's why I was always so comfortable working with you guys, was because you were like in my brain, because you were always so, you were around and you were listening, and you could translate what I would say in a meeting or on stage and use that to make my words sound better than I could say them if I was writing them. But my fear was always, if I didn't have that, or if the agency that I would maybe then work with wasn't like that, that you would get very easily caught out.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want. Because as soon as a personal brand isn't you, then you've not got a personal brand. Yeah.
I think if you're trying to be now, like, personal brand is like a career route for people, and if you're trying to like do it as a career in some way, shape or form, literally the art of it is supporting them to be themselves.
Yeah.
The minute that you're not doing that is like, it's not good. And I just, like, I know personally, because there's been things that I've seen and I feel it in my bones, that the minute that I don't feel that someone's being represented authentically, even things that I'm not involved in, like, I just feel, I'm like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So I know when I'm working in the space that is, I'm always coming at it from the right place of like making sure that the person is, your job is literally just to amplify what already exists.
That's it.
And you are creating things, and you might put, it's like being a producer a bit in a way. Again, like pulling back to music, it's like the songwriter writes the song, and like that's the essence of it. But a producer can like shape it and make it like, the songwriter in our context is like, they might not understand how to take the thing that they've just said and make it land best on LinkedIn, whereas the producer knows how to take that and make it work on in a certain environment. So I think that's the relationship that you need, and the best relationships that we've had were like where my job essentially was almost like A&R for a while, of like going out into the business world and meeting founders and going, this one's got something special. It's literally like trying to scout bands, and you find one that you think, they've got something there, and then it's like, let's work together. And it's a similar kind of thing. I think the people have to be good, and you can't outsource it, and then you can do it on your own for so long, but then at some point, if it grows, you're going to need support to do it, and it's then a case of finding like the right producer company.
Nice. I hadn't thought of it from a music world, but it's so true. That's a great way of thinking about it. I think I lost my identity. I think my thing was, I was Katie from Social Chain.
Yeah, you were trying to repeat the first album.
Probably.
Again, music, like.
Or when I left, I didn't feel like it was me anymore.
Yeah.
Because my identity was so tightly tied with that.
There's a really great drawing when David Bowie passed away. Someone did a drawing the next day, and you see these things that go viral after people pass away, and it was like 40 different versions of him. Each one looks a little different. Some of them have got persona names, some that whatever. And I was like, that's kind of what is part of the job. It's like a lot of people get the first version.
Yeah.
And then you're just trying to repeat the first one. Yeah. And it's like, you either can't, or you're not you've moved on since.
Yeah, you're a different person.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of people, the sophomore album curse in music is like, they have an amazing breakout debut album and they try to replicate, and it doesn't work. Whereas actually the job is to evolve. Once you've got out there, your job is then to not stay this, is to have to evolve afterwards.
Which is where an agency and working with someone like you really helps, because when you've had success, I'm speaking from personal experience, when you've had imposter syndrome and you don't believe your success, having someone else to be like, no, this is what direction you could go in with this. Because I think otherwise it can hold you back if you've had that already. If you've had the initial success, you think that's why. It's because I was that person there, which is why you probably try and recreate it. It's because I probably was like, I don't know what value I can add now. I'm not Katie from Social Chain. And it's took me quite a while to get my head out of that point.
Yeah.
But being an employee within such a brilliant business, if we think about all the people that have started businesses from Social Chain, it was because we were in such an environment where we were encouraged to have a personal brand. And that's what you're doing now, right? You're working with companies who are encouraging their team to have personal brands. Why have you moved from founder-led to company-led?
It was just a feeling of like, when I started Great Influence, I had a feeling of like being early to something. And that's quite like captivating to me. And like with Great Influence, it was one of, if not like first kind of personal brand agencies that there was. And I like that. Like, and I think the way that I see the world is try to spot patterns and things like that. And it's only happened to me twice since starting Great Influence. Great Influence was one of them, but there was two since then in the 8 years. And one of them was around 2022, where I had a feeling that almost like entrepreneurship was becoming part of popular culture in the same way that like fashion and fitness and all these kind of things are. Like it was going to be, if you listed out the pillars of popular culture, I was like, entrepreneurship is about to become one of them.
I mean, the Kardashians have built a dynasty based on it, haven't they? On business, like.
Yeah. And I had that feeling in 2022 and I was like, so it's going to become part of popular culture, and every other pillar has its influencers and talent and things like this, and talent agencies that exist for like sports people and entertainment people and all that kind of thing. And I was like, the same thing's going to happen in entrepreneurship. And I kind of explored that path for a bit, and it didn't get me out of bed in the morning. And then I had a feeling again of like, I've seen this cycle play out before, where I know I can feel it in the air of like these really big companies now are they're gonna start looking. There's more people in the company now, and it's becoming a lot more accepted that it's not just like a CEO in a big company that would have a voice. And we worked on a project with Booking.com, and that was like, it's almost like it came in. I didn't do that project and think, there's something here, but that was part of a wider, experience over the space of maybe 18 months that kind of, I was like, I have a feeling this is going to start to, this is happening in companies now, and they're either going to proactively or reactively. And the reactively one is happening. The proactive one isn't happening just yet.
But the panic one is.
The panic one's happening. Because they've got these people that are starting to like blow up on social in their companies, and they don't know what to do.
Without being in control of it. It's like accidental.
Yeah, literally.
What did that project with Booking.com look like then?
It looked like they had a challenge that they wanted to solve, and the way that they wanted to solve that challenge was to like promote some of the leaders within the company. And then we built a cohort, like it went like 1 person, 3, 5, 10. And people will come in and out of the cohort depending on what was going on in the company. And it was always like, right, okay, this is on the horizon. So it was always kind of tailored around moments that were happening, and also like the leaders themselves. So you'd have like leaders doing a bit of thought leadership, which is a bit evergreeny. And then there's something happening within Booking in the next like 3 months kind of thing. So it was always tied to that. And our job was like to come in there, work with Booking to understand that in the first place, like what was going on within the company, and then work with the leaders and start to understand them. And then our job was to like create a lot of content for those leaders and it go out on their personal channels. And this was like 2023. So like Booking were massively, looking back on it now, I'm like, fair play to them. They were really ahead of the curve to actually bring in an agency to do it and trust them to do it. So I think that's happening now, and I think it's happening reactively at first and then proactively will follow. Like we had someone who used to work at Great Influence, he went back to where he worked, which was on the beach, and he started a TikTok account, and he gained like, I don't know, 100, 150,000 followers in a very short period of time. And I think that was like, they've reacted
to that because of that it happening.
Yeah. And you look at Catherine Turner, Marks and Spencer's, like I spoke to someone the other day, and from what I understood, whether it's true or not, it wasn't a reactive thing. Like it was.
Oh, it was planned.
It was, but I don't. It was not like. It was very much a happy accident. Like they obviously got her to do it,
but they encouraged her to do it. It wasn't like she did it and blew up, and then they had to react.
I don't know for sure, but that's what.
Interesting.
Whether it's true or not, I've no idea. But I would assume they definitely didn't expect it to go to where it's gone.
It's wholesome, that's why.
Yeah, so again, I think like the first stage of this is companies are reacting to it happening.
Yeah.
And
Which goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, because people now can make content so easily and everyone wants to have a personal brand.
Yeah. So my bet is that they're either going to be forced to deal with it or they're going to want to. They're going to see the opportunity in
You can
doing
have a strategy around it.
Yeah. So they're going to be forward thinking and see it and go, wait a minute, and they're going to look for support with it, which is happening, or they're going to react to something happening internally. It's going to happen whether they like it or not, kind of thing. So yeah, and then a company didn't exist that kind of supported specifically within that, so it just felt like a bit of a gap, and it got me out of bed in the morning.
Which is the main thing. We talk about purpose a lot, don't we, together? One of the barriers that I have had said to me before is, why would I encourage people to build personal brands when they're going to leave? What is your answer to that? Because I think for leaders and founders who are listening to this, that's probably the first thing that pops in their head. Why would I spend time invested in a team that could just up and leave me tomorrow?
Yeah.
When I've invested on them building their personal brand.
It's just like investing in anything in them. Like you invest in their personal development, their skill development. Like I think that the instant reaction is like one of threat rather than looking at the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like some of the conversations that I've had so far, we've been like pulling data on people's, like companies' leadership teams, and we've been like kind of running them through things. And you can see straight away they're like, that we weren't thinking like this. The thinking isn't there that this is the impact of what they've got on their hands as a business. Even like startups have got it.
Yeah.
Startup founders know now the impact that it has on a startup. For example, we see it en masse.
Yeah.
And I think that's happened over the course of Great Influence being an agency, like 2020 to now.
Yeah.
Like every startup will know the impact of, whether they do it or not, they know that it's a thing. And if they're not doing it, one of the competitors probably has a founder who's like trying to do everything.
Yeah.
So startups really get it, and then scale-ups starting to get it. And I think that these massive brands are now starting to, I see it when I speak to them and kind of point out the impact. The problem is they just see it at a surface level at the minute, where it's like, Daniel has posted on LinkedIn. It's like, well, no, Daniel's the chief commercial officer, or Daniel's the VP of marketing, and the way that you should think about it is like, that's a channel for you to achieve some of the objectives that you've got as a brand, whether there's direct objectives of like, we need to do this, or there's a soft one of like relationship building, influence, authority in the market, like all these kind of things. And I think, they've maybe just not connected the dots so much yet. And also because they might not see the impact, the person.
Yeah.
So like, they've not measured it. There's not a lot of data and research out there on the impact. Like we're releasing research tomorrow that we've done, and it's like the average cost to a large organization in the UK of their leadership team not showing up is like, say, 17.8 million a year conservatively.
Wow.
That's for a company with 20,000 employees, like 400 senior leaders, to like a large enterprise.
Wow.
And that's across like recruitment, retention, attrition, media value. Like,
Wow.
It's interesting that like the people in the business, that if you bunch them together, it's the widest touching set of channels that you've got in a company in terms of what it can impact.
Yeah.
Sales, marketing, PR, media, internal comms, external
Hiring.
comms, internal culture, like the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And those channels are not like, there's no ownership around them, there's no strategy, there's no reporting, no measurement, it doesn't operate in any kind of way that usually something would in a large organization. So I think now we're going to see like it's going to go through that process, and it will be either a choice or you will
Be forced.
because a bunch of people are going to start building audiences, and it's only going to get fast forward 10 years, because right now we're in this like interesting don't know, like a 25-year-old now that's not a senior leader is like their social media use is significantly greater than somebody 10 years older and 10 years older again. So there's like a generation gap with like being used to creating content and social media being part of what you do and how you build a career.
Yeah.
So those 25-year-olds, 10 years later when they're senior leaders, the vast majority of them are going to have been doing
God, it's wild.
something. So,
as always, a huge thank you to the podcast sponsor, We Are the Allies. And I am so lucky that I've got CEO and founder Pav with me to tell us a little bit more about what the Allies actually does.
So Allies is a network of creative freelancers. So we have over 500 freelancers and 46 creative categories, working alongside lots and lots of advertising agencies, direct clients that have got in-house creative departments. We plug into agencies and clients. So if they have a gap in knowledge or, they need a certain type of expertise, then they come to the Allies to support them with that. We've been going for 7 years now. So it's founded by myself, Rick, my husband, who is the ECD, and then Polly, our daughter. So it's a family business, which is lovely. We cover all of the UK, and we've got talent up and down the country as well. We've even got talent in Canada and New York and places like that now, which is great.
So Pav, I've got a creative brief. I need the best creative director. I need a bit of a strategist. I need a photographer. Where can I find you?
You can find us on our website. So that's wearetheallies.com, or you can give us a call. We take briefs on email or via the phone. Yeah, that's how you can get hold of us.
Right, Ash, we're going to break up our chat with a little game. I feel like a hostess with a hostess. Are you ready?
yeah.
It's this or that, so it's a fairly simple game. Instagram or LinkedIn for building a personal brand?
LinkedIn.
Short form or long form?
Long form.
Posting daily or posting less with higher quality?
Posting less with high quality.
Going viral once or consistent steady growth?
Going viral and then consistent afterwards.
This and that. That was
This and that.
Personal stories or professional insights?
Professional insight.
Faceless brand or showing up on camera?
Showing up on camera. This is just personal preference. Yeah.
Niche down or broad?
Niche down. No, I've got a story about that.
Go on, what's your story?
I met a woman in Cannes and Cloud had shared a video in the day to Instagram, and I watched this video and it's a woman meeting Gary Vaynerchuk and she's like, should I do this for my personal brand? And I watched the video and I thought, I don't agree with Gary at all there. And I just carried on with my day. And then I met this event in the evening and I'm speaking to these two women and they're like, what do you do? Yada, yada, yada. I was like, personal branding agency. One of them was like, oh, my friend has a question for you. And she was like, I spoke with Gary Vaynerchuk and I was like, I watched your video this afternoon.
That is weird.
Yeah. And the video, she's called Laura Jackson. And she's got about 450,000 followers on Instagram, runs a couple of businesses, all this kind of thing. And yeah, she was like, why did you disagree? And basically she was saying, should I be my messy self in my personal brand? And I think Gary Vaynerchuk was basically saying, are you a one-dimensional person? No, exactly. So you shouldn't be one-dimensional. And he was saying, I talk about this. And I didn't agree with it because you, firstly, to give that kind of advice. I think personal brand advice is really difficult to give flippant advice to, off the cuff, because it takes context of knowing the individual and what they're trying to do and all that kind of thing.
Because we are multifaceted humans.
Yeah. But also, he first gained attention on the internet from being the wine library guy. So he just talked about wine on YouTube for years.
Is that how he started?
Yeah. And then he starts talking about business and marketing.
Yeah.
And within that, he's doing elements of talking about other stuff that's interesting to him, which is adds a human element to the expertise.
Yeah.
And now he just talks about anything. But it's like Russian dolls. Little one goes into a bigger one, into a bigger one, into a bigger one. And I think a lot of the time now, personal branding is just like, the advice is you just talk about everything. But really, like, if you're trying to build, take me for example, if I'm trying to build a personal branding agency, yeah, I can talk about something that's personal to me that has nothing to do with personal branding, and it's good because it'll humanize me. But then it's almost like, don't water down what you're trying to actually build a personal brand specifically in. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people now, if you actually went through the content that they're doing, you look over 20 posts and there's kind of like too much range for someone who's trying to build a voice within a certain area.
It's the fundamentals, basics of marketing. Know your audience and speak to them.
Yeah.
And if you're too broad, if you're creating content that's like business advice, but then you're going on holiday, like you're recommending holidays, like there's so many, like that is where you'll not hit your audience.
Yeah.
That's where they'll get confused. It's like, who am I speaking to?
I think it's just like, when you're earlier on, it's like important to, when you've got the platform, the platform allows you to be a lot more broad. Again, it's like music. Like, there's no way some of the, like, the Beatles with like Sgt. Pepper's is like a really trippy psychedelic album. They had to make Love Me Do and She Loves You first.
Yeah.
And then your audience allows you to experiment a little more because they're bought into you as an artist. And it's the same thing with people. Like, you've got to earn the right to experiment with people, and they listen to you on, like, we saw it with Steve, for example. Steve started off speaking a lot at Social Chain about like social media. He's a CEO of a social media agency. Fast forward 10 years, he's been afforded, from like providing value to the world and people being interested in what he's got to say, he's been afforded to open up for the breadth of what he's able to speak about. And also what he's doing needs him to have that breadth.
I was going to say that it's based on where he is at that point in his life.
Yeah.
Based on what he's actually working on, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas if he had the breadth of topic of discussion that he had now, but his job was running Social Chain as CEO, it's probably not the right thing to do.
No.
But given the context of everything that he's doing now, that breadth really, like, it's actually critical to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think you're completely right. Like, once you are known for something, but then showing a bit of who you are as a human works. Yeah. But not just showing who it's like. If I think about my content, every now and again, I talk a lot about work-life blend, so I will really want my work-life blend to be shown in my content because it's how I actually turn up and show up as a human. So a lot of my content, is leadership advice and stuff that I've learned through 20 years of working in leadership roles. But then every now and again, I'll throw in that, I've been on holiday and this is my downtime and this is how I then build back up to do the next kick on. They'd perform better than... Yeah.
The importance of side doors. There was a great article on Substack recently that kind of like picked up a lot on Twitter about like the importance of side doors in your career. And it spoke about the concept, like, everyone tries to go through the front door to get like a job or whatever, an opportunity in your career. But actually the side door is probably the best way in. And it's like happened to me. We're pitching at the minute, and I've been, for the past couple of months, I'll speak about like leadership and everything that you would from a thought leadership point of view for what I'm trying to achieve and the doors I'm trying to open. And then I do a post about like Metallica, and a guy sees it, he likes Metallica too. I DM him, we have a conversation, I'm pitching, I'm in. And it's like, I've gone through the side door.
Yeah.
And it's, the point I'm making isn't about like, don't talk about personal things and da-da-da-da. It's like, I have my core.
Stand for something first.
Yeah, I have my core, and then the side doors also play a really pivotal role around that of like, I saw a TikTok about a guy in Cannes, and he runs a business and he's a West Ham United fan. And he was just sitting down having lunch, and another West Ham United fan comes over and is like, hammers kind of thing, sorts him out for a number of events, like, I can get you in here, I can get you in here. And it's like, people buy from people. And it's about like trying to get the balance right, where some people in business are like really one way, where it's like it's all insightful, it's pure value. I'm thinking maybe like, I might be wrong here, but maybe like an Adam Grant or maybe a Simon Sinek or something.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek before he started doing social, when it was just the books, that it was just value.
Yeah.
And then you have that side, and then over here is like completely human side. And I think for me, it's like trying to find the balance in the middle. And sometimes you need to go up here more, sometimes you need to come up here more, and it's just constantly trying to get the right.
Yeah. Heather talked a lot about the reason she started posting on social is because she hated networking, and it was her way of growing her network. But again, you can't, it's like you say, you've got to show a bit of human, because the way that you buy and sell from people is by knowing something about them and connecting with someone rather than just talking at them.
Do you know what's really interesting is that, so I was meant to do a workshop for a company. I can't remember what Heather's company was that she worked at beforehand. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Go
Proposal. I was meant to do a workshop for the founder, CEO, whoever it was, and he couldn't make it, and Heather took it instead. And this was like 5, 6, long time ago.
That's probably when she started posting, you know.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely not taking any kind of, because she's incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like the cream rises to the top kind of thing. But like, we speak about companies kind of being proactive. Like, look at what if imagine a company goes, hey, we're going to bring in this company to teach you about this thing that you're interested in, and then you then do that, and it, like a number of things you do, then spark the fire, and you go on and you start doing it. You'll remember them investing in it for you.
Yes.
You know, it creates like a, you give back like a loyalty. Do you know what I mean?
100%. It's like training, isn't it? Like, I remember doing presentation training that I just got so much value out of, and then I felt like they were investing in me, so I wanted to invest back with them.
Yeah. And I think the personal branding thing, it's like a really easy win for companies right now, because it's on the radar of so many people that are like interested in doing it in some way, shape or form, and just like resource it a little, and it'll probably go a long way.
If you're a founder, what are your tips for getting started if you've not started yet?
Probably like anything that a founder should do is like do it themselves first, and then try to find someone to delegate that out to. But you're then, it's like anything within a startup, like founder does it themselves and then brings someone else to take it off their plate, but they then know how it operates. Especially when it's like they're themselves. It's important to do that. Whereas I think maybe now it's a lot easier just to like bring in someone straight away to get started with it. And it never goes well, in my opinion. It always goes better if they've been doing an element of it themselves first. And I've had a lot of conversations with founders down the years, and they'll attest to me like turning down business because I'm like, do it yourself for a little while first. And it's like, it's much better for them to come back to us in a year having done it themselves, and they're in a much better position than working with an agency from day one kind of thing.
And on really basic level, consistency is so important, right? Like, you've got, what are the like starter pack rules? How many times should people be posting on LinkedIn?
I think, like I've been saying recently, I think it's just good to be at least there once every 2 weeks kind of thing.
So it's not a massive amount of investment on time.
When you're starting, it's obviously different if you're like build an audience, trying to ramp things up, whatever. But if you're literally just starting out, I think you'd be really, really, really surprised by the half-life of something that you put out that's good. So like, take for example, what was his name? Harry Dry from Marketing. He had a website called Marketing Examples, and he would just pop up like once a year, but the thing would be really good and it'd be really shareable and get people talking and things like that. And the half-life that you got out of that was a really long time. And you see it now with like essays that people do, like George McGill, that we know.
We know George, very smart George.
Yeah, he did an essay about high agency, and it's like the half-life of that will be multiple years because it's now being like turned into a book and all this kind of thing, like from one article, the half-life that he's got out of that one piece of content. Obviously he's invested a lot of time into it, but he'll get like 3 to 5 years out of that. It's like Simon Sinek's like Start With Why.
Yeah.
The half-life of that,
Yeah.
that one thing that he did
Yeah.
is like decades. So I think a lot of people feel they need to do more than they need to, whereas actually you'd be surprised that if you do a couple of things consistently, you get quite a good half-life out of doing those things.
Interesting. And then in terms of if you are a founder but you are thinking about your team, where to start, what's the starting point, apart from obviously hiring you?
Just like have the conversation. I think a lot of companies are maybe avoiding the conversation right now and try to like decide together how it's going to work, because you're going to, I've seen it with a couple of companies where it's like they're having to reactively have conversations and reactively figure out how it can work. And I think it's going to become more commonplace for there to be almost like this is how it works. It's going to be very tricky. And do you pay people? Is a bonus in place? Like, how do you allocate time towards it? All these kind of challenges that people will have. But I think it's the first step is just like have an open conversation and see how people feel, and try to immediately, then you're doing it together rather than deciding something for them, which is really, really not a good idea to do, because they're not going to want to give you, it's their personal channels at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's blurring now between, the lines are really, really blurring between personal and professional. We see this especially with like young people, especially now, in their careers. It's like their personal pages are their professional pages and things like that. So yeah, they need to feel like you're working with them, not against them, because then they're not going to want to help you out in any way, shape or form.
Ash, your career has been just incredible. You've worked in, we both worked in such like the journey of social chain was immense and we learned so much from it, but then you took that and you've built businesses off the back of it. What are your proud moments?
One that stands out in particular, I'm going to say two actually, because I'd never usually say the second one, and someone else, I can hear cloud in my head being like, say the second one. The one that springs to mind first is like when Gary, he's been a guest dragon a number of times now, but the first time that was like aired and he sat next to Steve and you're watching it on TV, and it's like to have played even just like a small role. There's so many people that go into making those two people be able to do what they do. So you like play a small role in and seeing that where it's like, that's quite a, unbelievable thing. Yeah, I've even now with sort of stuff like that Steve does, he'd just been announced on Shark Tank. I'm just like, this is mental. Just and you take like a bit of a moment and think about the journey of it all.
100%.
Yeah, it's a really nice privilege just from a friend point of view with Steve. Now, obviously, I've not worked professionally with him for a long time, but just from a friend point of view and like seeing them go on and do the things that they're doing is always like, that always kind of gets me going a bit. Yeah, I always enjoy those things. And then, I won Creative Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah, you did.
18 months ago.
Yeah, you did. I can't believe you weren't going to say that.
Yeah, and I'm just not like, I don't know. I ended up doing what I'm doing because I kind of like someone else.
Yeah.
I can be in the background and I like to control things, but I can have an influence from behind the scenes. Probably why I started a personal branding agency and felt comfortable like working with some Steve, Gary, people like this. You can play a role, but you don't have to be front and center. So yeah, it was nice to have that. It's just more for my parents more than anything. It's just like, told you it'd be fine.
Yeah, when I left, I told you it'd be all right.
Yeah, but yeah, like stuff for my mum and dad that see so many things, and it's just like, it's lovely for them to see little things like that. So yeah.
Oh, pride all around there. Lovely. We've talked a lot about the volume of noise. There's a couple of bits I want to pick out when it comes to AI. the risk that comes with the volume of noise in AI, but also the reward when it comes to, is it called AEO? The SEO version of AI.
GEO.
Yeah, that. So can we touch on AI a little bit? How is it impacting personal branding? From a negative, and then we'll talk positive.
Right. From a negative, it means that the quality of what exists out there is a lot like you say, you've said it so many times, like volume, quality. I maybe have like I don't know, my opinion on it is like it's a good thing, because I think that a lot of people, I've spoke to so many people who've done great things and should be putting themselves out there, regardless of whether they've done great things yet or not, like if you're at the start of your career or the middle or the end. And because they've not had the tools, they've not done it. So now the tools are helping them take the step a lot easier. And at first it's rubbish. But it hopefully opens the door for them to make it better and better and better and better. And I think of like the barriers that, like, there's no barriers again now. And it's like thinking back to like Steve and filming a video for the first time. And it's like, we had to buy a camera.
Yeah.
There's a barrier.
Yeah.
So they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And that's gone now. Like and imagine at one point, there was a point like we couldn't afford things. Couldn't afford a camera.
No, I know. I remember I was holding the P&L.
And like, what if he'd have been barriered out of doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, just imagine it. Where would he? I wonder where he would have got to now if he wasn't sat in that. What was that white room called? Just like filming for hours.
I think the people that are meant to be, they'll figure out.
They will, of course they will.
But I think there's so many people who have not done something because the barrier exists, and now the barrier's not there.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it'll be rubbish at first, and that's completely fine. And I think with a lot of people are anti, like with AI, personal brand, AI content, all that kind of thing. They're like, oh, get out of my feeds. It's awful. It's dreadful. As the consumer, that's 100% right. But I think it's a really good thing because it's helping people take a first step that decides whether it's actually for them or not. And it might unlock something that they didn't know was there before.
That's a nice way. That's a very positive way of looking at it, Ash.
Yeah.
I struggle with the slop.
As we all do.
I struggle with the slop. I struggle with the sloppy comments.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm like, you're actually feeding into my content, so it's fine.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, I look at it as like, it's great. It's more opportunity. For me, if I'm a creator, I'm thinking, bring it on. Because slop is, I won't create slop. So you be lazy, you create slop, and I'll focus on actually putting value out into the world. So I think both sides, it's like a really good thing for people getting a start. And for anyone who's in that space who's like, ugh, it's a great opportunity because you're not going to do that, which means you're going to stand out a lot more.
Cream will rise to the top, as you've said.
Yeah, yeah. And then the like AEO, GEO, LLMs, AI, personal brand, I think it's like it changes the landscape of things quite heavily in that I think we don't realize the amount of impact these LLMs are creating on opportunity creation across everything. Because we're only really seeing it from our own personal use. We're not actually, like, my friend runs a search agency. They're so in it.
Yeah.
And they're like, the way that they talk about it and they're passionate about it is because they've seen something that other people haven't seen.
It feels like very first mover advantage to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're talking about everything that we've done in the past has been firsts. Like, you've done with great influence, everything we did at Social Chain was first.
Really
like,
good point.
and it feels like for me that is the next first. If you've got if you're a brand, I was talking to a brand I'm consulting with about it. I was like, you need to be thinking about that, not just SEO, but you need to be thinking about that because the way people are using AI now is they're not just going to Google, they're going to there. And I think if you're quick on it now, I think you could make first mover advantage.
Yeah, so like personal branding is coming into it I spoke about like brands kind of taking it more seriously now. And when I had that feeling and started a business around it, I didn't know the AI thing yet. And then that light got turned on to me and I was like, now this is actually going to become part of your brand marketing. Like it's going to become part of your sales function where you're like the people ranking in AI is going to become really crucial for what you're trying to do as a brand. So personal branding, the struggle we always had with great influence a lot of the time was like we were protected by the founder from the P&L holder.
Oh, okay.
So like the maybe they have to make some kind of cuts or whatever. They're trying to like be more efficient as a business or that kind of thing. Personal brand is the first thing that they're looking at and going, we can get rid of that.
Yeah.
And then the founder will be like, no, that's not a good idea. Whereas now you're like, I can see it becoming a line with a budget and like, because marketing are going to go, wait a minute, our people can influence these things to help our brand show up, especially in B2B. B2C, I'm not sure, but B2B undoubtedly. Like if you're a B2B like company, your people being able to influence the market has always been important for decades, but now even more so. And the AI thing means that personal branding takes on a really different, interesting dimension where the buyer of a personal branding service might not be a founder anymore. It might actually be a CMO, which I've not had that in 8 years of running Great Influence. And in the past 6 months, started to get that, but I don't think it was the AI thing. I think it was just a bit of a
Interesting.
yeah, and it's going to come in and really change things. So again, if a brand understands that, forward thinking of like, okay, understand that your people are influencing the LLMs. How can you leverage that as a brand? All this kind of thing.
And then it's thinking about how to make sure your keywords are right, to make sure you're showing up in the right places. Like it's not just about making content anymore. You've got to have the right search visibility with it.
So even the content changes, because how you make content is less about social and more is trying to bring search into the content that you create and put out there.
Yeah.
And brands right now, especially the large ones, there's nothing, honestly, nobody's thinking about personal branding or putting any kind of structure around it. They're so far away from that point of, no, the content actually has to influence keyword search. Like they're miles off that point, but they need to get there because it's
the way the world's moving.
Yeah, they're going to realize it quite quickly, and I think it's happening already, where they're starting to realize the people in their teams, the leadership, especially at the top, influencing LLM like brand related search and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely something I've thought about, especially now with my speaking.
Yeah.
Like making sure that if I want to get booked for speaking opportunities, people will go to chat and they will go to Claude and they'll say, I need a female speaker, motivational speaker in the UK. So it's making sure that I am visible when that happens.
How does it change career planning?
How does it change? And it's going to, because it's not just my content drives the speaking. It's also people searching for speakers, and I need to be at the top of that list when people are searching. So it completely changes your strategy.
Yeah. I was listening to Gary talk about AI in football clubs, obviously with Salford and things like that, and how it's changing recruitment of players. And now you'll have like 100 right backs, and then it's the human's job afterwards to kind of like assess what's going on there. And I wonder if I'd be interested to know whether recruitment is starting to work in the same way. So like, find me the top 50 head of brands.
I think it is.
And if you're career planning, where do you rank on the top 50 head of brands in the country? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How are you showing up in a world that you're not actually in control of, but you can influence?
Yeah, it's a whole new frontier.
It is. Ash, I am absolutely bombarded. I don't know if it's my algorithm, or I don't know if it's what I've looked at before, but all my ads on Meta are AI tools that can help me be more efficient. Like whether it's like how to build a website, how to make more content. I can make X amount of content in 45 minutes with this AI tool. Please, will you actually tell me what AI tools are worth? What do you use and what you find invaluable?
So a lot of the job that we've done with clients is like content creation. And I don't think that you should use AI tools for content creation. It's actually, I saw on Business Insider yesterday an article. Stephen Bartlett has doesn't use it, like he writes his own LinkedIn posts, and they did some data and all this kind of thing.
Why is that? Why shouldn't you use it?
Because it just takes it's personal branding. And yeah, it just takes the human out of it. Like, there's a reason why, like, I'm thinking for myself, if I do a post on LinkedIn, it's just like some kind of thought leadership kind of thing. And whenever I've put it into AI and tried to play around with it, it always just like, the idea is the same, but it's just taken away what makes it me. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I'm a real advocate of like, try not to outsource you just use it as like a sparring partner and brainstorm and all that kind of thing. And that's really good. But in terms of writing content, and I think so many people in the personal branding space are trying to build like tools that can help you create content. And I just don't think it's, yeah.
Nice.
But any kind of like top line LLM, Gemini, GPT, Claude.
Not our cloud.
Yeah, I use that a lot but like a sparring partner.
Yeah, it is useful, especially if you're like a small team or a solo founder, just being like, I've had this idea. What else have you seen around this? Like, what is the data? What can you scrape?
Yeah,
it is helpful for that.
Yeah, like trying to get it to tee you up with things of like finding research, all that kind of thing. So then hopefully it sparks an idea in you. And the only other one that like I've personally literally used in the last few months to do anything there's a tool called jungler.ai, and they're like a new startup, and that you just pop in your LinkedIn URL, so it doesn't need to connect directly. And it pulls all your content in the past 30 days, and it pulls lists of who's engaged with it, like, comment, share, I think.
That's so valuable.
And that's good for just like turning on the lights of who's actually engaging with what you're doing. And if you think from like, especially if you're a business owner, a small business owner in particular, like that's your sales pipeline right there.
Nice.
And obviously you can do that manually, but I think a lot of people maybe don't. Whereas if they just Jungler, you just pop the thing in, it gives you a report out. You're like, that's a lot easier. So yeah, I think I'm still quite an advocate of when it comes to the content, very manual. When it comes to everything else around it, from like reporting, strategy, insight, all that kind of thing, sparring partner.
What predictions have you got for the future with AI and personal branding?
I think it's going to become a lot easier to become a lot more influential, because the barriers again. So like a barrier that really exists is you do so much on your own, and then at some point you need to get support around you to take it to the next level. Literally, I had a conversation with somebody about this the other day, and my advice was like, hire someone full time for where they're at. It's the right advice, and naturally you're like hesitant to take that step, all that kind of thing. And I think that the tools that we'll have at hand will be like having a team. So yeah, I think people are going to be able to take that next step up, where maybe they've got like micro influence, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers, and they're going to be able to get to 500. They're going to be able to get to 1 million without having to hire anyone, which is, that'd be interesting to see that play out. So I think you're going to be able to build a team around yourself a lot easier. I'd say that would be the one that really stands out.
But not content creation. That's what we're saying today.
Yeah, like the content creation.
It seems like an easy out, right?
It has to. Surely it gets there.
Yeah.
In the same way you see those videos like Will Smith 5 years ago eating spaghetti and things like that, and then it's perfect. Like, surely it gets there. But I still think it gets there as a result of like the input, and then it's able to create the output. So if you feed it rubbish, it outputs rubbish. Yeah. Whereas if you've got genuinely good insight and it can sit down with you for 60 minutes, I think then it will be able to take that and put it in place, and the content will be really, really good. Like that surely will happen.
It helps me solidify thoughts a lot. So if I'm like, you know the way my brain works better than most people, I'll be walking down the street and something will pop in my head, and then I've got to kind of act on it in that moment. So just being able to stick it into Claude with my voice thing, it's like, that helps me get my thoughts straight on whether it's a good idea or whether it's not a good idea or whether it backs up by data. And that's how I've been using it. It's like is this the right direction?
Yeah. Again, kind of like
And
music.
also, is my grammar right? Because I can't write.
Like music, really, the landscape of music changed when you could get bedroom producers, and like great records started being made in bedrooms. Insane to think when, if you go back 20, 30 years and it's like you need a studio and everything's done on tape and all this kind of thing. And then you just have one person in a bedroom that makes like a best-selling album kind of thing. And it's because the tools were available for them to be able to do that. So I think you're gonna see that happen, and you're gonna see like loads of people. The volume thing is gonna get worse and worse and worse. But
the cream will rise to the top,
as it always does.
Ash, it's always a pleasure to sit down with you, even when the camera's not here. I just love spending time with you, and I think you always get me to think differently. You make my brain work in a way that sparks things, and I'm so grateful that you have had the time and you could take the time to do that for everyone watching as well, because your perspective on things is so relevant and so needed, and leaders and founders and business owners need to be thinking about this a little bit more than they actually are. So I really appreciate your time and coming to sit with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I want to say a huge thank you to Ash as well, because that conversation could have gone on forever. It was like, it's so valuable, and I know I'm going to take quite a lot from that from my own personal brand. Huge thank you to We Are the Allies for sponsoring the podcast. We have got some incredible things coming up, so for future episodes, make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you again next week.